Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Rested Soul. My name is Ruben. I wanted to talk today about the Ukraine-Russia war, about nuclear war in general. Are we headed towards World War III? Is this the apocalyptic war? What does the Bible say about it? Should we be even concerned as Christians? Let's get into it. So for those of us who have been watching the war closely, or even those that started at first like I did, you start watching the war, you see that it's escalating, but at the same time, it's never really, it's just like empty threats going back and forth. And then every once in a while, they'll cover some more ground, whether it's Ukraine or Russia, they'll shoot or counterattack or defend or whatever. And a lot of people are exhausted. We're already like 1,000 days into the war. So going back and forth, a lot of us have, just questions about instability, whether it's market instability. And now there's the threat of nuclear war. And according to the Bible, should we be scared of nuclear war? Or do you think nuclear war can happen? Or do you think it just won't happen because of the prophetic messages within the book of Revelation? Me personally, I don't think it can go nuclear unless it's like smaller, not to use it as an example, but what the Americans have dropped in Japan, those were atomic. I don't think those were necessarily nuclear. If they were to like use smaller scaled nuclear weapons, maybe, but I don't think so. I don't think biblically there cannot be a nuclear fallout. So because the Bible does have to come to pass, the book of Revelation especially, as Christians, we know that, there needs to be eventually it needs to get to the point where society collapse. Can this war create a societal, like all countries across the globe's digital, like all the markets in the banking, and create a digital banking system, create a centralized one world banking system? Could that happen because of the war? I think so. If this war goes on for more and more to where all the nations are eventually just never going to stop funding it, and it's just we're all going to go broke or whatever. That's a plausible thing that could happen. As far as like nuclear war, I personally, this is just my opinion. Don't take it as, the news or whatever. I personally don't believe it can go nuclear because of the book of Revelation. It does have to come to pass. There will be an end of the world. It will not be through nuclear fallout. It will be through the Antichrist bringing in a new system and the apocalypse when Jesus returns, and there'll be a new heaven and new earth, and this one will fade away. And it describes, anyone that's read the book of Revelations, all the seals, all the things that happen at the end of time that God allows, that will be the end of the world. I personally don't believe that a nuclear fallout situation will be the end of the world, but the war in Ukraine is just escalating more and more. I do believe this war could lead all nations, not just this war, because it's not just Ukraine anymore. It's the Middle East. It's the Houthi rebels, the Syria, what's going on, and also it's still part of the Middle East, but it's no longer just concentrated to Israel and Gaza. It's going out to to Lebanon and Syria. Syria right now has collapsed. Assad has left. I think he's seeking refuge in Russia right now. It's not just that. It could be what's going on with China in the Taiwan Strait. There's a lot of drills going on now, more than before. And what the latest thing, I have it pulled up right here, looks like Ukraine has just assassinated Moscow, one of Moscow's leaders, a Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, at the head of Radiation, Biological, and Chemical Defense Forces, was outside of his block, like apartment block complex, and tried to get on some kind of scooter that had a bomb attached to it, or a boom boom, and he has been removed. The Ukrainian, government or whoever hasn't made any comment on this yet. It's just kind of a coincidence, the one that's in charge of radiation and biological chemical warfare, the defense with Russia, that specific one has been targeted. It kind of ties into what has been happening in Ukraine with the bio labs and stuff like that. So this could be an escalation. I don't know. Now, this close to the end of the year, I'm pretty sure Putin has common sense, knowing that Trump will take office, and there are talks that he would want to talk with Donald Trump and establish some kind of peace treaty or whatever, or at least get on board with some kind of peace talks, because right now nothing has been happening, because it seems like the current administration has no intention, with how much they're funding Ukraine and stuff like that. It doesn't look like they have any intention to de-escalate the war, which they should, because, Russia has just shot into Ukraine, and Ukraine has just shot back into Russia's fuel depots just now over the weekend. So it's getting pretty intense. It's not just about the Russian-Ukraine war, it's a global thing. A lot of people are on edge because it seems like the government spending right now here in the United States, they did reach a deal to where the government will not shut down, but it just seems like every time they're just printing more money for wars and for other things, and it's never enough money for the citizens of the United States that are in current need due to hurricanes, due to whatever natural disasters we have going on here. I'm pretty sure even things from last year haven't been fully addressed yet. I'm not going to go into every specific detail of every natural disaster that happened in the past year in the United States, but all these monies, all the monies that they're gathering for wars, it seems like it's never ending. Moscow is just on the verge of declaring, imminent war, because right now Ukraine is also using ATACMS rockets, which have to be propelled, well, not propelled, but they have to be guided by a satellite system that the Ukrainians don't have the technology. So Russia is seeing these ATACMS missiles hitting them inside of Russia as a direct assault from a NATO country, because it's not Ukraine that has the technology to power these rockets and to guide them through a satellite system to hit their targets inside of Russia. So it just appears, and now they assassinated one of the top generals in Moscow. It appears that they are just constantly pushing us further and further into a war, which I believe can lead to the collapse of, a lot of countries. All of the NATO countries are, supporting this war. And literally, I think Germany just had their country collapse, their government collapse. Finances are running low across all of them. I think nobody really wants to. I think it's only the Hungarian Prime Minister Orban that is trying to get the rest of Europe into talking about maybe Ukraine has to settle for, some land loss and talk peace with Russia, which I'm pretty sure Trump might echo once he gets into office. Once this new administration takes over, I'm pretty sure Trump is going to say, you know what, we are not going to support this war until we go broke. You are on your own, which I totally agree with. I don't think the United States should take control of it and have to deal with everything that goes on financially, from a financial standpoint, even though I know that other European countries like the UK and France and other ones are really donating also a lot, as well as the Baltic states, the Baltic countries. They are also really supporting Ukraine as much as they can, because I think they know from history how it was under Russian rule. However, I think with Trump taking over the office, I do think we will avoid anything nuclear. I don't think it'll escalate that far. The Bible verses talking about wars and rumors and wars and pestilences, and that's exactly what we've been going through lately with COVID, with the big C of 2019 into 2020. Then we got out of that. Then we kind of were into a recession, even though nobody wanted to say that's what it was. It pretty much was what it was. And now with the new president coming in, but as far as for me, I don't think this can be nuclear. I don't think it will go nuclear. I don't think any country, everyone knows nobody can survive a nuclear fallout. The amount of radiation, ever since what happened in Ukraine in the late 80s, I believe, with Chernobyl, I don't think, you can't just concentrate a nuclear attack to one specific region. It'll affect so many areas, because I think during the late 80s, during the Chernobyl accident, it affected as far as Poland, Romania, all the way down, I think, to the Black Sea, close to Turkey. The radiation was not just contained in Ukraine. It does affect wildlife. It affects everything. It affects the weather a lot. So I don't think this war will go into a nuclear status. What I think will happen is, if it doesn't stop, if Trump cannot reach a deal, whether it's in the Middle East or in Ukraine, sorry, I keep moving around. I think governments would eventually go broke. We're printing money right now that we don't even have in the United States, in the NATO region, the NATO countries. And as far as Russia as well, I think Russia's using a third of their budget right now just for defense. So it's not like all these countries are just pumping money and no one's being affected by it. Everyone in the world is being affected by it. Could this create the collapse needed to install a one world government, or at least install a one world digital currency? I personally also don't believe that as well. I do believe we are in the end times, but I don't believe like other people do. A lot of YouTube channels will believe like it's, this is it, this is the end of the end. And I don't believe that, because for the apocalypse to come to pass, for the book of Revelation, it does state that there will be a one world currency. There will be pretty much all nations will have to go into one organization, one digital banking system. No one will be able to buy and sell without the mark of the beast. That's why I also don't believe this can go nuclear. I think the word of God will come to pass, and this war will eventually cease. We don't know how. We don't know how the makeup of the world will look like on a financial system afterwards. But hopefully it resolves. And I just wanted to make this video so people don't, because there is a lot of panic and stuff, and I see it in society when I go out and about and stuff, and it's like we have peace as Christians because we know whatever will be, the Bible will come to pass, and we can only, pray for those that are in regions of direct conflict. Because when we're watching stuff like this, we're in a different country, we're watching it from a place of comfort. But for people in Gaza, for people in Palestine, for people in Israel, for people in Ukraine and the southern eastern parts of Russia, this isn't just the news. They're hearing things go by. They're hearing whether it's rockets, whether it's nuclear talks and all that. They're in it. So let's pray for those in those areas. And until next time, peace.